Hello, and welcome to another American Photo Treks post-processing video. I'm Dave Soldano. Good to see you guys again. And today I'm going to go over something I talked about a lot in a recent workshop, which is focus stacking. And for those of you that joined us on our American Basin Wildflower workshop, thank you very much for coming. We had a really, really good time. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work too, but we definitely had a good time, and I hope you guys got some great pictures. I got some pictures I like real well, and during the time we carried on the workshop, we talked a lot about focus stacking because these little wildflowers can be pretty tough to photograph, and especially if you want to get them in the context of a landscape. And they can move around, and they can be really close to the camera while the landscape can be really far from the camera. And the solution that we talked about was focus stacking. And that's just where we take a series of images where we move our focus throughout the shot, and then we blend them together later in Photoshop. And that blending is what I'm going to show you how to do right now. Now, if this is the first time that you've watched one of these videos, it's pretty simple. You can just follow along with me. And if you look right here, you'll see that every keystroke that I'm pressing will show up right here, so you know exactly what I'm doing if I forget to say. So let's get started. Like I said, whenever I focus stack, I always hold up some fingers in front of the camera just before I start my focus stack, and that's so I know that the images that come after my fingers are the ones that are focus stacked. And I hold up the number of fingers that represents the number of images that I focus stacked. So these images right here are some beautiful little Indian or scarlet paintbrush there right in the American Basin bowl. I decided that I needed about 4 images to get good focus all the way through. And that was because I was on f7.1 and still at ISO 800, I was still only able to get down to 1/5 or 1/4 of a second. So luckily we didn't have much wind blowing around, or else I'd have been in real trouble. But that just goes to show you we were there early in the morning. We got there for sunrise, and that's when the light is best, but it's also when it's most difficult to get these shots, because these flowers are so delicate, it doesn't take much to move them around. So that's why I went all the way up to ISO 800, so I could get something that might freeze them in any of their movement. 1/5 of a second is the best I could do right here. So let's go ahead and get started focus stacking these. So like I say, I held up 4 fingers, which means I focus stacked 4 images. So what I do to get started is I select the first image just by clicking on it. Then I select Shift and my last image, and that selects all 4 images. And I'm in Adobe Bridge right now. And I'm going to double click. These are my raw images, and that opens them in Adobe Camera Raw, which is exactly like Adobe Lightroom. So you can follow along with me in Lightroom real easy. And as we look at this, you can see, okay, so here's my beautiful scarlet paintbrushes, and they're in nice sharp focus. But as I move away, because I'm only f7.1, my depth of field quickly blurs a little bit. Now my middle area here is not in focus. My mountains are definitely not in focus. So then we go to my second image, look at those, and now the foreground isn't quite as good focus, but you can see this middle area is in nice focus here. Go to the third. Now we start getting up here, and this is where the focus was that I moved for this third image. And finally, for the mountains, you can see now I focused on the mountains, but the rest of the image is quite out of focus. So now I just want to put all those together. And to do that, first I'm going to select all of the images. And do that the same way. Select one, go to the bottom one, Shift, that selects them all. And I'm going to make sure, before I try and focus stack these or anything else, that all of this is the same on all 4 images, because when it focus stacks, I don't want one image to maybe have a slightly different white balance and then just look bizarre. The image will look bizarre. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I just click right here and say sync settings. And this is going to sync all the settings together on all 4 images. And boom, 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 boom. It happened real fast, but it did it. And now instead of opening in Photoshop, I'm just going to say done. That's going to take me right back into Adobe Camera Raw, and you're going to see that all 4 of these are still highlighted. Now this is just to make my life easy, so I'm going to come over here to Tools, Photoshop, and then Load Files into Photoshop Layers. And then that way I don't have to individually open each photo and open it separately in layers. It's going to do all this for me in one keystroke, and that's what's happening right now. And you can see my 4 files, boom, 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 all opened, and they're each one a layer in Photoshop Layers. And you can kind of see them as I go through. You can see. All right. So now I'm going to select all 4 of my images again the same way. I'm going to click on the first image, shift, click on the last image, and that selects all 4 of my layers. Now real simply I just go Edit, and I'm going to start with Auto Align Layers. And I was on a tripod, and everything should be nice and aligned, but you know, you never know. Something might get bumped a little bit, or a flower might get moved in the breeze a little bit. Who knows? It's just safer to go ahead and align them first, and it doesn't really hurt anything. So now there they are. They're all aligned, and I can see there really hasn't been any movement, so they must have been pretty darn close to begin with. Then the next thing I do is just Edit, Auto Blend Layers, and it brings up this little block right here. And I'm going to simply say Stack Images, Seamless Tone and Colors. I'm not going to say Content Aware, Filled, Transparent areas. That shouldn't be a problem with what I'm doing. So then I'm just going to say OK and let Photoshop do its thing. And when it auto blends, what it's specifically looking for is focus. And so that's exactly what's happening here. That's Corgi. Somebody must be at the door, or some dog walking by. If you've ever been to my house, you know that is a constant thing happening. So there you can see that Photoshop has stacked the layers. And you can see the blacked out areas are the areas that it didn't select in that particular photograph. And the white areas are the ones that it did. And now, if you zoom in, you can see, look, all my little paint brushes, they're in nice sharp focus, just the way they were on my foreground picture when I took it. And my midground is in beautiful, nice sharp focus. And so are my mountains. Isn't that magic? And now I've got a really good storytelling shot with everything in focus all the way from down here to my mountains. Kind of magic, huh? With f7.1, which is right in the sweet spot of the lens's capabilities. So everything is just as sharp and nice as it can possibly be. And then to create a single image, I'm just going to say Layer, Flatten Image. There it is right there. Now I can crop and start working on my image. This is really nice. Then you can adjust that image, go back, filter, Adobe Camera Raw, go ahead and kind of tune it up. I like more shadows in my images, and probably a little more highlights, and anyway, just kind of hopefully turn it into a prettier image, and everything is going to be a nice sharp focus. Look at those Indian paintbrushes, aren't they beautiful? And that is as simple as it is. And I know it sounded pretty hard as I was explaining this in the field, but I hope you guys hung with me, and I hope that this video shows just how easy this technique is. And as easy as this technique is, it creates a very special image, and people will be looking at like, how did you do that? But it's really beautiful, and I think it's my favorite way of showing these beautiful wildflowers in the context of the landscape. And it's a beautiful landscape, beautiful wildflowers. Why not put them together? All right, that's as simple as it is. Short, simple video. Please tag American Photo Treks in some of your images that you took on this workshop. To do that, on Facebook, simply type @American Photo Treks, and you'll see our little site will pop up in a drop-down menu. Select it, and that's how you tag us. Same exact thing for Instagram, just @American Photo Treks, and we'll pop up from the drop-downs. I'd love to see some of your images. By all means, just shout out an email if you need some help with processing or got any questions. And once again, thank you very much for coming to American Photo Treks workshops. We really enjoy it and love spending the time with you. You guys have a great rest of your week. And again, let me see those images. Bye.